Captain Marcus Hale sat alone in the cockpit of his small exploration vessel, the Wayfarer. The stars outside the viewport shimmered like a sea of diamonds spread across endless black velvet. The hum of the engines was steady, a sound he had grown used to after so many years wandering from one forgotten system to another. Humanity had expanded far into the galaxy, but Marcus was not part of the great fleets or the political councils. He was an explorer, a man who searched for what others had left behind. Old stations, wrecked ships, forgotten outposts, anything that carried a story hidden in silence. That night, or what counted as night in space, his scanners picked up something unusual. A faint energy signature flickered at the edge of a ruined asteroid belt. At first, Marcus thought it was another drifting piece of debris, but then the signal pulsed again, weak but steady, like the faint heartbeat of a dying starship. Curiosity tugged at him. Most explorers would ignore it. Too much risk, too little gain. But Marcus had always been different. He changed course, guiding the Wayfarer carefully through broken chunks of rock and shattered metal. As the vessel drew closer, the silhouette of another ship emerged from the shadows. It was sleek, silver, and strangely graceful, unlike any human design he had seen. The hull bore deep scars from weapons fire, and parts of it were torn open, spilling frozen air into space. Marcus leaned forward, his breath catching. An alien vessel, he whispered to himself. Humanity had met other civilizations before, of course. The galaxy was full of intelligent life, though most looked down on humans as a young species still climbing its way upward. But this ship, it didn't belong to any of the known races. Its curves were too elegant, almost like it had been grown rather than built. The faint energy reading came from within. Someone, or something, was still alive inside. Marcus's instincts told him to be cautious. A trap, maybe. Pirates sometimes used old ships as bait, but something in the silence of the wreck called to him. It wasn't the lure of salvage or profit. It was something else. He docked carefully, sealing the Wayfarer to a half-broken airlock. After checking his suit, he stepped into the alien craft. The corridor was dim, the walls faintly glowing with some kind of organic light. Every step echoed like he was walking inside a cathedral left to ruin. His scanner pinged again. Life detected. Faint but real. Marcus followed the signal deeper into the vessel until he reached a chamber. Inside, lying on the cold metallic floor, was a figure. At first, he thought she was a statue carved from pale crystal. Her skin was a soft shade of silver blue, almost luminous under the failing lights. Her hair, long and shimmering like strands of liquid starlight, floated gently in the thin atmosphere. She wore a torn garment of flowing fabric, unlike any armor he had seen. And she was breathing. Barely. Marcus knelt beside her, adjusting his suit filters to provide her with oxygen. Her eyes fluttered open and he froze. They were large, radiant, and full of sorrow, like two galaxies drowning in loneliness. She spoke, her voice faint and trembling, the words alien, but soft. His suit's translator tried to catch up, stuttering through broken phrases. Please, do not leave me. Marcus felt a weight in his chest. He had seen many strange things in his life, but nothing as haunting as this. She was not a monster, not a threat, just a soul abandoned in the dark. I won't, he said gently, though he wasn't sure if she understood. You're safe now. Her hand trembled as it reached for his arm, weak but desperate. For a brief moment she clung to him as if afraid he would vanish. Then her strength gave out and she slipped into unconsciousness again. Marcus carried her back to the Wayfarer, setting her carefully in the medical bay. His ship was not designed for alien biology, but he did what he could. Oxygen adjustments, warmth, hydration through basic drips. Hours passed as he monitored her vitals. When she finally woke again, her gaze searched the room until it found him. Relief softened her features and she whispered words the translator managed to piece together. You came back. Marcus gave a small nod. Yes, I told you I wouldn't leave. Her name, he soon learned, was Leora. Her people, the Veari, had been a proud and powerful race, wandering the stars long before humans ever touched spaceflight. But pride had cost them dearly. Their fleets had been shattered in a war against another empire, and those who survived abandoned the weak and wounded. Leora was one of them. As she spoke in her broken way, Marcus realized something deeper. She had not just been abandoned by chance. She had been abandoned because she did not fit the Veari way. Her kind valued dominance, strength, and victory above all. Leora was different. She had sought peace, mercy, compassion. To her people, that was weakness, and so they left her behind. The thought struck Marcus harder than he expected. He had felt loneliness himself, wandering the stars without family or home. But to be cast aside by one's entire race, left to die simply for showing kindness, that was cruelty beyond words. "You're not weak," Marcus said firmly when she hesitated to explain further. "You're alive. That's strength enough." Her eyes glistened at his words, and for the first time since he found her, she smiled. It was faint, fragile, but it carried warmth that cut through the cold silence of the ship. Days passed. Leora slowly recovered under Marcus's care. Though her body was frail, her mind was sharp. She began teaching him fragments of her language, and in turn he shared human stories. She listened with wide-eyed wonder as he spoke of Earth's oceans, forests, and skies, places she had never seen but now longed to. Marcus repaired what he could of her vessel, though much of it was beyond saving. During the work, she would watch him quietly, her gaze lingering as if memorizing every detail. Once he asked her why. She answered softly, "Because you did not turn away, you are different." Her devotion grew silently like a flame sheltered in the dark. She would bring him tools without being asked, study his maps, and hum soft melodies of her people while he worked. There was no demand, no expectation, only the quiet, unspoken vow of someone who had finally found a reason to hope again. But not everyone would see it that way. On the third week after finding her, Marcus received a message. The signal came through the secured galactic channels, bearing the mark of the Council of Stars. The message was sharp and clear. "Explorer Marcus Hale. We have detected unauthorized interaction with a Vayari exile. Such individuals are not to be sheltered. You are ordered to surrender her to the nearest enforcement fleet." Marcus read the words in silence, his jaw tightening. The Council rarely cared for wanderers like him. If they were taking notice now, it meant they feared Leora's presence. When he told her, she grew pale. Her hands trembled, and for the first time, Marcus saw true fear in her eyes. "They will destroy me," she whispered. "As my people did. Please, do not send me away." Her voice cracked as she begged, her dignity falling aside in desperation. The sight pierced Marcus deeper than he expected. She was not a warrior, not a conqueror, just someone who wanted to live, who wanted to belong. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "I won't hand you over. Not to them. Not to anyone." Her eyes widened, shimmering with unshed tears. For a long moment, she simply stared at him as if unable to believe his words. Then she lowered her head, whispering so quietly the translator almost missed it. Then, "I am yours forever." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Marcus didn't answer right away. He simply looked out at the stars beyond the viewport, knowing their journey had just begun, and that the galaxy would not let such defiance go unchallenged. Yet in that moment, he also knew one thing with certainty. He had found something far greater than an old wreck or forgotten relic. He had found someone worth fighting for. The days after the Council's message weighed heavily on the wayfarer. Marcus Hale sat in the pilot's chair, staring at the blinking lights of the warning signal. It had not been a suggestion. The Galactic Council rarely gave those. It was a demand. He knew what the usual explorer would do: comply. Turn over the exile, avoid trouble, stay safe. But Marcus was not like most explorers. He had lived too long among the stars, too long with nothing but silence for company to let fear dictate his choices now. Still, he was not a fool. Defying the Council meant being marked. Every port, every station, every patrol might become dangerous. He rubbed a hand across his face, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on him. Behind him, soft footsteps broke his thoughts. Leora entered the cockpit, her silver-blue form bathed in the dim starlight coming through the viewport. She moved quietly, almost like a shadow, her long hair flowing as though it carried a piece of the stars with it. She had recovered enough strength to walk steadily, though the sadness in her eyes had not left. "You are troubled," she said softly. Her words were still broken by the translator, but her voice carried warmth. Marcus glanced at her. "The Council. They know you're here. They don't want you with me." Her hands trembled as she held them together, her gaze falling to the floor. "They want me gone, always." "Always gone." Marcus turned his chair to face her fully. "Leora, listen to me. I don't care what they want. I made my choice." Her eyes lifted to his, wide and shimmering. "You choose me?" "Yes. His tone was steady, calm, without hesitation. The translator carried his words to her, but it was not the machine that made her heart race. It was the conviction in his voice, the way he said it, as if there was no doubt. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she lowered her head, her voice trembling like a prayer. "Then, I give myself to you, all that I am, forever." Marcus did not know how to answer at first. He was a man used to solitude, to keeping distance. But as he looked at her fragile figure, at the way she held onto his words as if they were the only thing keeping her alive, he felt something stir in him. It was not pity, it was not obligation. It was something deeper, an understanding that in all the vast galaxy they had found each other in the darkest place, and that meant something. "Then we stand together," he said finally, "no matter what comes." Leora's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, and in that moment, her devotion to him became unshakable. In the days that followed, Leora became more than a passenger. She became a companion. She spent long hours with Marcus in the engine bay, learning the workings of the Wayfarer. Though her people had used technology far more advanced, she showed patience in adapting to his human systems. Her delicate hands moved with surprising skill as she passed tools, adjusted circuits, or carefully mapped out the flow of power. One evening, while repairing a damaged shield array, Marcus noticed her humming softly. The tune was haunting yet beautiful, like the echo of stars being born. "What is that song?" he asked, tightening a bolt. "It is Veyari. Old," she explained. "Sung when one feels alone." Her voice lowered. "I sang it many times," Marcus paused. "Not anymore." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the console. Then she nodded slowly, the corners of her mouth lifting again in that fragile, almost hidden smile. As trust grew, so did Leora's willingness to share more of her past. Late one cycle, while sitting in the mess hall, she told Marcus of the Veyari way. "We were taught that strength is life," she said, her voice carrying a mix of bitterness and sorrow. "Mercy is weakness. Compassion is weakness. I could not be like them. I tried, but my heart—" She touched her chest lightly. "It did not follow. And so they left you," Marcus said quietly. "Yes, they left me to die." Her eyes lowered. "When you came, I thought you would leave too. But you stayed." He leaned back in his chair, watching her carefully. "Humans, we don't see kindness as weakness. Not always. Sometimes it's the strongest thing there is." Her head lifted slowly, as if his words were something she had never believed possible. In her people's eyes, she had been a failure. But in his, she was something else, something valuable. That night, when she returned to her quarters, she whispered softly to herself, repeating his words again and again like a mantra. It was not long before Leora began to give back. She studied the ship's star charts and noticed hidden paths, ancient Veyari routes through unstable space. These shortcuts saved Marcus weeks of travel. One day she guided him through a dense nebula, where currents of energy swirled like rivers of light. Human ships normally avoided such places, but under her direction the Wayfarer slipped through unharmed. When they emerged on the other side, Marcus stared in awe at the brilliant expanse of stars. "You just saved us months of travel," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Leora bowed her head slightly. "I will give you all I can. Knowledge, secrets, myself, everything." Marcus felt her sincerity. It was not a debt she spoke of. It was devotion. But danger was never far away. A week later, while scanning for fuel-rich asteroids, Marcus intercepted another message. This one was less formal than the Council's first warning. It was sharp, urgent, almost threatening. "Explorer Hale, you have ignored direct orders. The Veyari exile is dangerous. You risk contamination of forbidden knowledge. Hand her over immediately, or enforcement will follow." Marcus read the message aloud to Leora, her face drained of color, her hands clutching at her garment. "They will come," she whispered. "They will take me. They will kill me." Marcus reached across the console, placing a steady hand on hers. "Not if I have anything to say about it." She shook her head, tears forming in her radiant eyes. "You cannot fight the Council. Their fleet's too strong." "Maybe," Marcus admitted, "but I won't hand you over. That's not who I am." Her tears slipped free, glimmering as they fell. She pressed her forehead to his hand, her voice breaking with raw emotion. "Then I am yours, Marcus Hale. Until my last breath, I am yours." From that day onward, She threw herself into helping him more fiercely than ever. She modified his ship with small pieces of her advanced knowledge, subtle improvements that human engineers would never have considered. Energy efficiency doubled. Weapon systems grew sharper. Shields grew stronger. Marcus tried to protest at times, saying she should rest, but she only shook her head. As long as I give to you, I live. Without you, I am nothing. He realized then that her devotion was not born only from gratitude. It was born from a lifetime of rejection, from a heart that had never been allowed to give itself freely. Now that she had found someone who accepted her, she poured everything into that bond. One evening, as the ship drifted in the quiet of deep space, Marcus found Leora standing in the observation deck. She gazed at the stars, her hands clasped before her as though in prayer. You know, he said softly as he joined her, most humans dream of finding new worlds, new riches, new powers out there. And you? She asked gently. He looked at her, his eyes steady. I found you. That's enough. Her breath caught, and for a moment, her devotion deepened into something almost sacred. She lowered herself, kneeling before him, not as a servant, but as someone offering her heart without condition. You saved me from death. You saved me from emptiness. My life is yours now, forever. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he reached down, lifting her back to her feet. We stand together, always. But even as those words sealed their bond, the universe stirred. Beyond the edges of the system, far beyond their scanners, ships moved, council enforcement fleets closing in. Leora had chosen him. Marcus had chosen her. And soon they would both face the storm that choice had called upon them. The silence inside the Wayfarer was heavy. Only the steady hum of the engines filled the air as Marcus Hale sat at the cockpit, watching the blinking warnings on his console. The Galactic Council had sent 3 messages now. Each one was sharper than the last. Each one demanded the same thing: hand over the exile. Marcus leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He had been through dangerous situations before. Asteroid storms, pirate ambushes, even engine failures in deep space. But this was different. This was not random chance or bad luck. This was the Council itself, the most powerful authority in known space, turning its gaze toward him, and all because of one person. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. He didn't have to turn to know who it was. Leora had a way of moving, light, graceful, almost like she was part of the ship's silence. She stopped at the doorway, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Her long hair flowed like strands of starlight, and her eyes, wide and filled with worry, searched his face. They will come, she whispered. I can feel it. The Council. They do not forgive disobedience, Marcus nodded slowly. I know. Her hands tightened against her chest. Then you must give me to them. If you do not, they will destroy you. Marcus finally turned, meeting her gaze with a calm, steady look. Leora, I already told you. I'm not handing you over. Her eyes widened, shimmering with disbelief. But your life, your ship, everything, you risk it for me. Why? Because I don't abandon people, he said simply. His voice carried no hesitation, no doubt. Leora's lips parted, but no words came. She lowered her head, tears welling in her eyes. Her heart ached at his stubborn loyalty, at his refusal to treat her as disposable. For so long she had been unwanted. Now she was being chosen, and it was almost too much to bear. The moment of fragile peace shattered when the ship's alarms flared. Marcus spun back to the console, his hands moving swiftly over the controls. Incoming ships. Council signatures. Leora gasped, clutching the side of the chair. On the screen, 3 vessels emerged from the void. Sleek, metallic, marked with the crest of the Galactic Council. Enforcement ships they hailed immediately. A cold, commanding voice filled the cockpit. Explorer Marcus Hale. You are in violation of direct Council orders. You are harboring a Vayari exile. Power down your vessel and prepare to transfer custody of the exile immediately. Non-compliance will be met with force. Leora's breath came quick and shallow. Her hands trembled as she whispered, They will kill me. They always kill the weak. Marcus glanced at her, his voice steady. Not while I'm here. He opened the comm channel. This is Captain Hale. I'm not handing her over. She stays with me. There was silence for a moment. Then the voice returned, sharper, now laced with threat. Explorer, you are defying the Council. Stand down or be destroyed. Marcus cut the channel, his jaw tight. So be it. The first shot came like thunder. A beam of energy lanced across the void, grazing the Wayfarer's shields. The ship shuddered, lights flickering. Leora gripped the chair. "Marcus!" "I see it," he muttered, his hands flying over the controls. He spun the ship sharply, engines roaring as he dove into the cover of an asteroid field nearby. The enforcement ships followed. Beams of light carved through the dark, shattering chunks of rock around them. Marcus weaved through the field, each maneuver precise, each turn calculated. He had spent a lifetime flying in dangerous places. Now every skill he had was being tested. "Shields at 70%, Leora reported, her voice trembling but focused. She had learned enough of his systems to read the data quickly. "Good," Marcus said. "Keep your eyes on the power levels. We can't outrun them forever, but maybe we can outthink them." The chase dragged on, the Council ships pressing closer with every moment. Leora's heart pounded. She had seen fleets rise and fall, but never had she seen one man stand against such odds. She wanted to help, to do more than sit and fear. "Marcus," she said suddenly, her voice urgent, "there is a hidden path, an unstable rift nearby. My people used it long ago. Dangerous, but it could hide us." Marcus glanced at her. "Coordinates?" She quickly input them, her fingers trembling on the console. A star map flared to life, showing a faint distortion in space ahead. "That?" Marcus raised a brow. "That's practically suicide." "Yes," Leora admitted, "but better than certain death here." He stared at the map for a moment, then gave a small grin. "Then let's take the suicide road." They dove toward the rift. The enforcement ships, realizing their target's intent, unleashed a barrage of fire. Energy beams tore through the asteroids, explosions lighting up the void. One blast struck the Wayfarer's side, throwing Marcus against his chair. "Shields at 30%, Leora cried. "Hold on!" Marcus shouted. The rift loomed closer, a swirling storm of distorted space like a wound in the fabric of the galaxy. The Wayfarer trembled as it neared, the controls fighting against Marcus's hands. "Now!" Leora shouted. Marcus slammed the thrusters and the ship plunged into the rift. For a moment everything vanished. Light, sound, even the sense of time itself. The ship groaned, the hull screaming as if torn apart. Leora clung to the console, whispering prayers in her own tongue. Then suddenly silence. The Wayfarer emerged into a void unlike any Marcus had seen. Stars burned faintly in the distance, twisted and strange. Space itself seemed to ripple around them. Marcus checked the scanners. "They're gone. We lost them." Leora exhaled a shaky breath, her entire body trembling. Then she turned to Marcus, her eyes shining with awe and relief. "You saved me, again." He gave a small, tired smile. "Guess I'm making a habit of it." She leaned closer, her voice trembling with emotion. "No one ever fought for me. No one but you. You would fight the galaxy itself." Marcus shrugged lightly. "You're worth it." Her heart swelled at those words. She lowered her head, whispering softly, "Then I am yours. No matter what comes, no matter where we go, I belong to you." For a long moment they sat in silence, the weight of their escape settling over them. But Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The Council would not stop. Their defiance had been marked. And somewhere, deep inside, he knew their greatest trials still lay ahead. But he also knew one thing: he would not let her go. Not now. Not ever. The rift had carried the Wayfarer into a quiet, strange part of space. Stars shimmered faintly in the distance, twisted and distorted as if seen through rippling water. No charts marked this place. No beacon flashed nearby. For days, Marcus Hale kept the ship hidden in the shadow of a drifting rock, running silent. He spent the hours repairing the damage from the chase. The cracked shield arrays, the burned wiring, the trembling hull. His hands moved with steady focus, though his mind was never at peace. He knew the truth. The Galactic Council would not stop. They would hunt him no matter where he went, and all because of her. Leora. She moved quietly through the ship, helping however she could. She had grown stronger since the day he found her, her steps steady, her eyes brighter, yet she still carried the sadness of one who had been abandoned too many times. She never forgot the danger that followed her, the danger now pressing down on Marcus because of her. That thought weighed heavily on her heart. One evening, Marcus sat in the cockpit, studying the star map. He tried to plot a course back to safer regions, but every path was long, every route risky. His thoughts were broken when he heard her voice. "You do not sleep." He turned to see Leora standing in the doorway. her silver-blue form faintly glowing in the dim light. Not much reason to, Marcus admitted. Too much to think about. She stepped closer, her gaze falling on the map. You think of escape. I think of survival, he corrected. For both of us, her eyes lowered. For you, survival would be easier without me. Marcus frowned, leaning back in his chair. Is that what you think? She nodded slowly. The council wants me. Not you. If I go, you will be free. Stop. His voice was firm. Don't ever say that again. She looked at him, startled. You're not a burden, Leora, he continued. You're not some problem I have to throw away. You matter. To me. Her lips parted, trembling as if she wanted to speak but could not find words. She lowered her gaze, silent. But even as he tried to assure her, the galaxy had not forgotten them. On the 6th day, the Wayfarer's comm system lit up with a faint signal. Marcus hesitated before answering, knowing only the council could reach this far. The voice that came through was smooth, almost gentle. Not the harsh command of the enforcers, but something softer. Captain Hale, we know you are tired. We know you are far from home. The exile has trapped you in this endless flight, but it does not have to be this way. Marcus sat silently listening. You are human, the voice continued. Your people are young. You cannot fight the council. But if you surrender the exile, you will not be punished. We will grant you safe passage, a free return, a clean slate. The message ended, leaving only silence. Marcus leaned back, exhaling slowly. A trap, he knew it. Yet it was the kind of trap designed to work not with force but with temptation. Leora had been standing behind him. She had heard every word. Her heart ached. They offered him freedom, safety, a way out of danger, and all he had to do was give her up. She looked at Marcus, waiting for his reaction. But he said nothing. He simply turned off the comm and returned to his map. The silence cut into her like a knife. That night she could not rest. She sat alone in her small quarters, staring at her trembling hands. For so long she had feared being left behind, but now she feared something else, dragging Marcus into her doom. He had already risked his life for her again and again. How much longer could he carry that weight? Perhaps, she thought, the only gift she could give him was freedom. She stood, moving quietly so the floor panels would not creak. She carried nothing but herself as she made her way to the docking bay. Her plan was simple. She would take the small escape pod and drift into space. The council would find her, and Marcus would be safe. But when the bay doors slid open, she froze. Marcus was already there. He stood with his arms crossed, watching her calmly. His eyes held no anger, only sadness. You were going to leave, he said quietly. Leora lowered her head, ashamed. I cannot let you suffer for me. You think leaving will protect me? Marcus shook his head. No, Leora. If you go, the council still wins. They'll take you, use you, and then come after me anyway. And worse. His voice lowered. You'd break the promise you made. You swore you'd stay. Her body trembled, tears welling in her luminous eyes. I only wish to save you. You want to save me? Marcus stepped closer, his voice firm but gentle. Then stay. Stand with me. That's how you save me. Leora's breath caught, her heart racing. His words struck deeper than any blade. She realized then that to him, her presence was not a burden. It was strength. Slowly, she nodded, tears falling freely. I will stay. I swear it. Marcus gave a small smile, then placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Good, because I'm not letting you go. From that moment, something shifted between them. Leora no longer hesitated, no longer doubted. She poured her knowledge into strengthening the Wayfarer. She showed Marcus hidden ways to stabilize the ship's engines, how to amplify the shield harmonics, how to reroute power in ways human engineers had never imagined. Together, they rebuilt the vessel into something more than it had been. Small, yes, but faster, sharper, stronger. As they worked side by side, Marcus often found himself watching her. She was graceful even in simple tasks, her long hair catching the glow of the consoles, her eyes shining with quiet determination. And though she had once been filled with sorrow, he now saw fire within her, a devotion that burned brighter each day. One evening, after hours of work, she stood before him, her head bowed slightly. Marcus, she said softly, I was wrong to try to leave. You were right. Together we are stronger. He smiled faintly. Took you long enough to realize. Her lips curved into a gentle smile. Then she lowered herself to one knee, her voice trembling but steady. My life is yours. My knowledge, my strength, my heart. Until the stars fade, I belong to you. Marcus reached down, lifting her to her feet. Then we fight together. Always. But even as they rebuilt the ship and strengthened their bond, the shadow of the Council loomed closer. Their fleets were still searching, their traps still spreading. Leora knew the time would come soon. The time when Marcus's loyalty and her devotion would be tested not in words, but in battle. And in her heart she vowed that when that moment came, she would give everything she had to protect him. Because she was no longer the poor, lonely exile abandoned by her people. She was Leora, and she had found the one soul who accepted her forever. The stars were silent, yet heavy with tension. The wayfarer drifted through the void like a lone spark, but inside its heart beat two souls stronger than any fleet. Marcus Hale sat in the cockpit, staring at the displays. Red dots marked their sensors, hundreds of Council warships spreading like a net across space. The hunt was closing in. Leora stood beside him, calm but steady. Her hands rested on the console, guiding the ship's systems with skill that came from both knowledge and instinct. They know we are here, she said softly. Marcus gave a short nod. Yeah, and they're not leaving without us. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. If they want to fight, they'll get one. But against those numbers. Her luminous eyes turned toward him. You are not alone. We are not powerless. Trust me. There was something in her voice, a certainty that gave him strength. The trap springs moments later, alarms flashed. The starfield around them warped as massive cruisers appeared from hyperspace. 10, 20, 50, an entire fleet surrounded the small freighter. A voice came through the comm. Deep, commanding, human captain. You have carried the exile long enough. Surrender her now, and your death will be swift. Resist, and your suffering will be endless, Marcus smirked bitterly. That's supposed to scare me? He switched off the channel and turned to Leora. Looks like it's now or never. She placed her hand gently over his. Together. He squeezed her hand back. Together. The awakening of the ship. When the first cruiser fired, the void lit up with golden beams. The wayfarer shuddered under the impact, but instead of breaking, the shields held firm, stronger than ever before. Leora's voice rose, steady and commanding. Reroute power through the secondary grid. Push it into the phase coils. Marcus followed her instructions without hesitation. The ship surged with energy, its engines glowing brighter than they ever had. A second volley came, but this time the wayfarer moved like lightning, weaving between blasts with impossible speed. Marcus laughed under his breath. This thing handles like a fighter now. What did you do? Leora's eyes shone. I awakened its true potential. This ship was always more than it seemed. It only needed trust to rise. The dance of battle, the fleet pressed in, but Marcus flew like a storm. Years of smuggler instincts and pilot training guided him through the chaos. With every move, Leora was at his side, amplifying shields, boosting weapons, and opening hidden systems. Together, they fought not as captain and passenger, but as one mind, one soul. A destroyer cut across their path, guns blazing. Leora touched the console, whispering ancient commands in her own tongue. The ship answered, releasing a pulse of pure energy that tore through the destroyer's hull, leaving it silent and drifting. Marcus whistled. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Her lips curved in a faint smile. I would never harm you. One after another, Council ships fell, not to sheer firepower, but to the impossible coordination of human courage and alien devotion. The wayfarer became a legend in motion, a ghost that slipped through traps and struck with precision. The Council's last weapon, but the Council was not so easily defeated. From the heart of their fleet, a massive vessel emerged. Larger than cities, its surface glowed with runes of ancient power. This was no ordinary warship. It was a relic from an age long past, awakened only for moments of greatest need. Marcus's breath caught. That thing's a fortress. Leora's face paled. She knew the ship by name. The Harbinger. A weapon from before my people fell. It cannot be stopped by strength alone. The massive vessel powered its core. The stars dimmed as if the void itself bent toward it. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. Then we'll stop it with something else. The choice of devotion. As the Harbinger prepared to fire, Leora closed her eyes. She felt its power, the same energy that had once destroyed her world, and she knew the truth. There was only one way to counter it. She turned to Marcus, her voice heavy but unwavering. "There is a path, but it will demand all of me." He frowned. "What do you mean, all of you?" She stepped closer, touching his cheek softly. "My life has been wandering, empty, waiting for a purpose. That purpose was you. If I give myself to the ship fully, if I merge with its core, I can unlock everything. Enough to stand against the Harbinger. But I will not return." Marcus's chest tightened. His hands shook on the controls. "No, I won't let you burn yourself out for me." She smiled gently, her eyes glowing with warmth. "Not for you alone. For us, for what we are. For the promise I made." He shook his head, voice breaking. "Leora, I didn't save you just to lose you now." Her hand pressed against his heart. "You will not lose me. I will live here forever, in you." The fusion of souls before Marcus could stop her. She placed both hands on the console. Light spread from her form, threads of silver weaving into the ship's systems. Her body glowed brighter, her voice soft yet powerful. "Marcus, trust me," his throat tightened, but he placed his hand over hers, nodding. "Always." In that moment, human and exile fused. Her devotion, his resolve, their shared bond. They became the pulse of the Wayfarer. The ship roared with new life. Its hull shone like a star. Its engines blazed with fire. And its weapons burned with impossible energy. The Harbinger fired a beam that could shatter moons, but Marcus and Leora, united, answered with a storm of light. Their strike tore through the ancient vessel, breaking it apart piece by piece until it exploded into silence. The Council fleet faltered, their will broken. They turned and fled into hyperspace, leaving only wreckage behind. The aftermath silence returned to the stars. The Wayfarer floated steady, glowing faintly from the energy still coursing through it. Marcus sat in the cockpit, breathing hard, tears welling in his eyes. "Leora?" For a moment there was only quiet. Then the console lit up, forming her voice. "I am here." He closed his eyes, relief washing over him. "You scared me." Her laughter echoed softly, warm and gentle. "I will never leave you. Not now, not ever." He touched the console, his heart aching yet full. "Then let's keep flying. Together." The ship hummed as if in agreement, and so, though her body was gone, Leora's devotion remained eternal. She was no longer the lonely exile. She was the spirit of the ship, bound forever to the man who accepted her. Epilogue. A new legend. Years later, across the galaxy, whispers spread of a human pilot and his living ship. A vessel that fought fleets, crossed impossible distances, and always appeared when hope was needed most. Some called it a ghost. Others called it a myth. But those who had seen it with their own eyes knew the truth. It was not just a ship. It was the devotion of one soul and the courage of another, burning brighter than the stars. And wherever they went, Marcus and Leora traveled together, forever.